Hey y'all, happy Monday. So I want to give one last push for the Happy Healthy Holidays, which is coming up this Saturday. So all this week I'm preparing and getting ready for that. So this is a copy of the cookbook. It's called Preparing a Table, Feasting on Whole Foods to Steward God's Temple. And so Saturday morning from 10 to 11:30, we're going to have a time of fellowship, a time of learning, knowledge, sharing information with Miss Linda from the One Life Natural Market and Dunn. And you're just going to love her. And she's full of so much information. And she has some goodies to share with us too. It's just gonna be wonderful. We're gonna have good food. We're gonna sample some of the recipes out of here, whole food, and talk about how to make our holidays, our meals, just as tasty, but much more healthy. And so it's got all the pictures and the recipes in here. Biscuits, buttermilk biscuits, your rolls, your dinner rolls, pastry, my chicken pastry's in here, apple butter, the best ranch dressing you'll ever have, caramel fresh apple cake, just really got some good stuff in it. Caramel apple cake. I'm gonna make that this week. So anyway, you can go onto the website at nancyjoe.org to register for that. Your registration includes your food, your cookbook, all of the fun things. So come be with us. I'm ready to sit down at your table. I'm also ready to dig back into this God of Elijah. So we ended last week in that we cannot live like the heathen do, and that they appeal to our emotionalism and hype from the compromise of covenant. And, it says that they become reckless and have abandoned themselves as prey. Well, you know what prey is. That's the hunted. Well, we all know that Satan roams about like a lion, roaring in fierce hunger, seeking whom he may seize upon and devour. And so they had abandoned themselves as prey. See, a plan of Satan to take God's people. Satan has always been after God's people. From the beginning of the fall, well, that's why he went after Adam and Eve anyway, but in the beginning, when God said and spoke at the fall that there is one coming, her seed will bruise your head, Satan marked God's people, trying to prevent that seed. And so he has always been trying to take God's people. And this compromise comes in little by little, and the contaminated worship, the breaking down of the altars just struck me. It again for years, like where was the worship of God? And it could not be that they worshipped God at another altar. You cannot worship God at the altar of Baal. You cannot worship God at the altar of Baal. And not just talking about the Israelites, but you and I cannot worship God when we have broken and walked away and compromised our covenant, when we have been reckless and we've abandoned ourselves to all of these things, every form of impurity. We cannot worship God, which he's looking for worshipers who will worship in spirit and in truth. And we cannot worship God at the altar of Baal. And 2 Corinthians 2:14, 6:14, but that's not right. Paul is saying, he says, do not be unequally yoked. Don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. And he goes on to say, what agreement can there be between a temple of God and of idols? What agreement can there be between the temple of God and idols? And he doesn't say what agreement. I love the phrasing because it's can there be. It is impossible. There can be no agreement between the temple of God and the temple of idols. And so if you read that whole passage in 2 Corinthians 6 and start at 14, he says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Do not make mismated alliances with them or come under a different yoke with them, inconsistent with your faith. For what partnership have right living and right standing with God with iniquity and lawlessness? Or how can light have fellowship with darkness? What harmony can there be between Christ and Belial, the devil? Or what has a believer in common with an unbeliever? What agreement can there be between a temple of God and idols? So, this worship that there can be, it is impossible for there to be any agreement between a temple of God and the temple of idols. And so, in order for God to prove himself as God, he had to have a place where he could reveal himself. The altars had been broken. Elijah had to repair the broken altar. We'll pick up here tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.